Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so excited to be here today with my friend Jason Lee of Lee Insurance and Notary. We wanted to have a conversation because September if life is Life Insurance Awareness Month. I met with Jason recently to deal with some notary stuff. He does a lot of notarizing or notary. You can help me out with that, Jason. But he
That's
does a
right.
lot of notary services for McClendon Law and Consulting. He helps us out with will signings and anything that we need with a notary. He's a mobile notary here in Macon, Georgia. So um, I was talking with him the other day and he told me, September is Life Insurance Awareness Month and asked me a few questions about my own situation. And I said, you know what? I want to have you come and talk with the people who follow me and talk with them about Life Insurance Awareness Month and what it means, why it's important. So thank you so much for being here today, Jason. And I guess we can go ahead and jump into our conversation.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for putting this together. It's a great opportunity to reach some people. Thank you for everyone who's joining us live or maybe watching. If you like, I can go ahead and give you some information about myself.
Yeah, go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Okay. My name is Jason Lee. I'm the owner of Lee Insurance and Notary Services here in Macon, Georgia. We are a full service insurance agency offering multiple lines of business from personal auto, commercial auto, homeowners, renters, liability, commercial property, life insurance, and so much more. So, our focus this month is going to be on life insurance because September is nationally recognized as Life Insurance Awareness Month. This is an initiative that was started 20 years ago this year, as a matter of fact, from the Life Happens Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization. Uh, the emphasis on Life Insurance Awareness Month is to encourage everyone to take a look at your current policies to make sure you know how your policies work. Is it permanent insurance? Is it temporary term insurance? Making sure that all of your coverage is up to date because life does happen for all of us. And there may be some things that change from year to year that would prompt you to take a look at your life insurance coverage just to make sure everything's staying up to date with your life. So we'll get into a little bit of that here soon, some things that may prompt someone to make changes to their life insurance. Uh, I guess I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself as well. Just to let you know, I'm a licensed insurance professional in the state of Georgia and a few other states. I've been licensed for 19 years now, and I've worked for companies such as Geico, State Farm, Allstate, Direct Insurance. Also worked for a number of years as an independent agent for Eason and Walker Insurance here in Macon. Larry Eason was my uncle. And then once they retired, Mr. Eason and Mr. Walker, I went to work for Eason and Associates. And eventually, back in 2016, I went out on my own. So I've worked for a lot of different insurance companies. I know these companies inside and out as far as what their rates may look like, what their requirements may be for someone to qualify for life insurance. And right now, as an independent agent, I'm contracted with over a dozen life insurance companies, some of which you've heard of, such as Mutual of Omaha, Prudential, Illinois Mutual, and a host of others, AIG, AFLAC. And what that does is it gives me the opportunity to shop the rates out with multiple companies. That way, we make sure that we offer you the best price for the best coverage. And also to make sure that if you may not qualify for company A, we have a plan B, C, and D to make sure we put you in the best position to obtain the coverage that you need. So that's just a quick background information on myself. And I'm glad everyone's here, whether you're watching live again or on the replay.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you just said, Jason. I had so many questions. I wish I had a piece of paper to keep track of my questions, but I'm gonna try to
Sure.
remember them up here with all the other
Okay.
stuff that's up here. But
Okay.
so one of the questions that came up you mentioned how you are a life insurance agent, and then you listed all these companies that you work with. And so, as a
Yes.
person who is wanting to purchase insurance, I might say, well, maybe I should go to, did you say Omaha was one of the companies?
Yes, Mutual of Omaha, very well
Mutual of
known, very
Omaha.
reputable company. Yep.
So I might say I need insurance and Google insurance companies, and then Mutual of
Hmm.
Omaha might come up. Why
Hmm.
would I not just contact them versus contacting you and you putting me in touch with them? Could you help folks who are listening in or watching to
Sure.
understand what's the benefit of going through an agent?
Sure. That's a great question. A lot of people ask me that all the time. The benefit of that is the fact that we do all the shopping for you. So what that means is that we take your information one time, and then we shop it out on the market, the life insurance market, with multiple insurance carriers all at one time. That just streamlines the process of you getting the quote you need. We offer personalized service, so we look at every person's individual situation to see what their needs may be and make sure that we can accommodate them. So it saves you time, it saves you stress, it saves you from having to give your information out multiple times. And then two, that's really the reason that I became an independent agent. So with insurance, there's basically two types of agents. There's a captive agent who only represents one company, and then there's an independent agent who may be contracted with multiple carriers to represent those companies. And I decided to go independent as opposed to captive because I didn't want to be held with just one insurance rate. So this gives me a better chance to service my clients by being able to offer multiple solutions for whatever their challenges may be from an insurance standpoint. So yes, it puts us in a better position to streamline the overall process for the customer, avoid some frustration, and then the benefit too is speaking with one person. You're not going to hang up with and then call back and speak with someone else who may not know your case or know your information. So that's another benefit as well.
Okay, that's very helpful. So, because I know a lot of people probably wonder, like, okay, how do I get that starting point to figure out what's going to be the best company for me? So, in a
Right.
similar vein, how does someone decide what's going to be the best type of insurance for them? Are you able to provide some guidelines that people can follow, or perhaps questions they should ask their agent to help them
Sure.
decide what kind of insurance would be best for them?
Sure. It's really an individual basis, Veronica, to be honest with you, because life insurance prices are based on a few different factors, such as your age, whether you're male or female, whether you smoke or use tobacco products or not, your current health, your health history, which would also encompass your prescription drug history if you're on medications currently or have been in the past. So there are a lot of factors that go into determining what type of coverage is best for each individual person's situation. So what we do here at Lee Insurance and Notary is we sit down with you, or we talk over the phone, or we talk virtually, and we do what's called a needs analysis, which basically breaks down things and says, listen, what is the reason that you're seeking life insurance in the first place? What coverage do you already have in force? Do you know if it's permanent insurance as opposed to term insurance? Is it only through your employer? Do you have anything outside of the workplace? And I can go on and on, but there's a number of questions that we ask that will give us the best direction to see what the best course of action would be for that particular client. And that way we make sure that nothing falls through the cracks, so to speak, and that we make sure that we tailor a plan and coverage for that individual person's needs that will offer them the longest term solution possible. That's my mission as an agent, is to provide my clients with the longest term possible solution available based on their individual situation. So that helps also streamline the process to say, this is this person's situation. For instance, I'll give you a couple of examples. Let's say that you just purchased a home, or maybe you purchased a home some years ago, and you want to make sure that if you were to pass before that loan is paid off, that your family or loved ones or whoever you would leave the home to would be able to keep the home in the family, pay off the mortgage balance, pay off the bank so that the home is free and clear, so to speak. So you may want to get a large amount of coverage to cover the balance of your loan but you may be on a budget. So in those situations, term insurance may be the best solution because with term insurance, you get a lot of bang for your buck, so to speak. You get a lot of coverage for a smaller amount of premium. And also you can line up the term insurance to correlate with the terms or length of your mortgage. So if you have a 15-year mortgage, we could do a 15-year term policy. 30-year mortgage, we can do 30, and so forth and so on. It may be a situation, on the other hand, where it's a senior citizen of ours who is just looking for enough coverage to take care of his or her final expenses. Maybe a situation where as we age, we do have some things may come up as far as our health is concerned, medications, health issues, hospitalizations, maybe even challenges as far as cancer. So it may be more difficult to get coverage after a certain age if you've experienced these situations in your life. However, it's not impossible. So for a senior who's just looking for a smaller amount of coverage to take care of their final expenses, maybe leave a little bit of money behind to pay off a small amount of debt, we do final expense insurance as well, which is a permanent whole life policy. So these are just some different factors that go into assessing a individual's current situation and seeing where they want to be 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the line, depending on their current age. And then that way we could determine you need to go this route or this route. The other thing that I'll say about that too is I always tell my clients, don't try to get one life insurance policy to take care of all of your needs. Right. Because from a financial point, it's going to be very difficult. So let's say you are that homeowner who has that mortgage. Go ahead and get the term insurance policy. But also, because the term insurance policy will expire after a certain time, 15, 20, 30 years, whatever the case may be, go ahead and get that smaller permanent whole life insurance policy. That way, when the home is paid off in 15 or 20 years, or you're retired in 15 or 20 years, or the kids are grown and gone in the next 15, 20 years, and your needs change, and that term life insurance policy expires or goes away, you'll still have the whole life policy that is set in stone, as long as you make your payments, to fall back on to take care of your needs as you age, which normally are less than it was when you were younger, raising kids, having mortgages, having car loans, things of that nature. So that's helpful to know too.
That is helpful to know. And I tell my estate planning clients similar things. I say, this plan that we're creating is not going to be your, okay, I'm covered for the rest of my life plan. When you have small children, you need a certain plan. You need to make sure you have guardians in place, trustees in place. You need to make sure that you're thinking about, where are my kids going to live? Who's going to pay their expenses? But then when they get out the house and they're in college, it's a different conversation. You need to think about, they may be able to raise themselves, but they still might need somebody to help them manage their money. But you might want to start teaching them how to have a little bit more responsibility. So you might make them a co-trustee over their own trust and pair them with somebody who's responsible. So we kind of talk about similar things from an estate planning perspective, that the plan that you create is going to need to be changed over time, depending on what your needs are at that point in time. And I think a lot of people, they want to save money and they're like, okay, how can I do everything at one time as cheaply as possible? And so I hear what you're saying, that that's not the best route.
Well, you got to think about it, because are you in the same place? And I'm just speaking in terms, a rhetorical question. Are you in the same place now that you were 10 years ago in life, or 15 years ago in life? Did your life plan go exactly according to plan when you mapped it out a decade or two ago? No, because life happens. Life throws loops at all of us. So it's difficult to start somewhere and just say, this is going to be it forever. This is all my needs I'm ever going to need forever, because life is going to happen. So That's the importance of Life Insurance Awareness Month. At least once a year, we have the opportunity to see, all right, well, what's changed since last year? And a few things that may prompt someone to take a look at their life insurance coverage is a marriage. Now you have a spouse, even a divorce. Well, let's say you have an ex-spouse who you had life insurance for, but maybe that need goes away now that you're not together anymore. The birth of a child or the adoption of a child is another major life event that will prompt someone to take a look at their current coverage. Changing jobs, changing careers is another big thing as well, because even if someone has insurance on their job through their employer, they may or may not be able to take it with them if they change employers or change career fields. And even if you do keep that, a lot of people don't understand that once you retire, your benefits change drastically. Not only your health insurance or your dental or your vision, but also your life insurance. And I'll give you a real life example. My mother worked for the IBM Corporation for a number of years and had to go out on disability at one point. But once she retired and started to receive her retirement from IBM, her $50,000 group life insurance plan went down to $25,000 when she turned 65. And she lost $5,000 worth of coverage every year until that policy was no more. So if she had not purchased insurance outside of her job years beforehand, she would be without the coverage she needs as she's aging, which is the point in time that a lot of people need it the most. So that's something to think about as well. So I always encourage my clients to take a look at your current coverage. If you don't know how it works, or if you don't know what you have, you just know that you're paying for it, take a look once a year. Make sure you know what type of coverage you have. Make sure no coverage changes are needed, and make sure you know who your beneficiaries are. If you got divorced, you might not want to leave that policy to your ex. You may want to leave it to someone else. So it's important that you always take a look at these situations, because life changes, and that's the importance of Life Insurance Month, Life Insurance Awareness Month. Not only to make sure that you have coverage in place if you bought a policy, but to review what you have and really know how it works before it's too late.
Yeah, Jason, I'm so glad that you brought this month to my attention, because what you just said, like, that could change lives if people really take heed to what you said. So I think that for those who are listening, Life Insurance Awareness Month, when you hear Life Insurance Awareness Month, or you know that it's September, that might be a good reminder to you to look at your life insurance coverage. So I'm thinking that, you want to set an annual calendar. Just sit down, look at life insurance, look at your estate planning, and there might be some other things you want to look at to make sure they're still relevant, because life often changes and we don't realize how much has changed. Like you said, 10 years ago, when you really sit down and think about what was in place 10 years ago, like, I had no kids 10 years ago.
Right.
Now I have
Right.
two. And life was, the way I looked at life was just so different. And you don't really think about how much your life is evolving. And you might not think, I actually did leave a policy I left something to a niece or nephew, and that niece or nephew is no longer here. Or, whatever it might be, we need to look at things. One thing that I would like to talk with you about is leaving life insurance benefits to children, to minor children. And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that from your vantage point, but I definitely have some thoughts from my vantage point as an attorney. So I thought maybe if you have anything that you wanted to share in terms of leaving life insurance, putting minor children as beneficiaries for your life insurance policy.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you asked that, Veronica, because that is, make this quick adjustment here. That is one thing that is extremely important, because a real life situation that I went through with a client of mine less than a year ago, gentleman, a couple years younger than me, actually passed away unexpectedly. And back in 2016, he came to me asking about life insurance. We were able to put in a policy, a term life insurance policy that gave him what's called a return of premium benefit. That means basically, in his case, he had a 20-year term life insurance policy for X amount of coverage. If he passed away within that 20 years, the policy would pay out 100% of his death benefit to his beneficiary. And if he outlived the policy, he would get back 100% of the premiums he paid over that 20 years. So it's got the coverage that he needed if he passed away, and it would return his premium if he outlived the policy and outlived the need to have the life insurance. For his situation, he wasn't married, but he had a young child, and he decided he wanted to leave that policy specifically to her. And I told him, preferably we always want to leave these life insurance beneficiaries or benefits rather to someone 18 or older, because when you leave a life insurance benefit to a minor, there are a lot more hoops to jump through, which I know that you can speak on here in a minute too. But in his situation, the mother of the child had to go to an attorney, help settle his estate. And for the life insurance benefits, the mother had to be assigned as the, I can't remember the exact term, but basically the guardian of the minor child's assets. And I say all that to say that it took several months. It took about 6 months, 6 or 7 months before the life insurance company received all the documentations back from the attorney, before his estate was settled to the point where his daughter could receive that check. And you don't want that to happen, because when you lose someone, you're already grieving the loss of a loved one. But from a financial standpoint, if you know you have money at hand that could benefit you in the days you need it the most, but you can't access it, or you can't access it for several months, that can be devastating to someone. So I always tell people 2 things. One, if at all possible, please, please, please leave your life insurance benefit to someone 18 years or older to streamline the process of paying out that claim faster when you pass. So that's number 1. Number 2, I always suggest when it comes to someone's beneficiaries specifically, name what's called a contingent beneficiary. What that means is, if your primary beneficiary who you list passes away before you do, because you're the person who's insured, your primary beneficiary passes away before you do, your contingent beneficiary automatically moves up and becomes the primary beneficiary. That way you have a plan B, so to speak, and that helps streamline the process too, because this happens all the time. So always try to leave that benefit to someone 18 or older, and always name a contingent beneficiary in case your primary passes before you do.
Yep, I can speak on that as well, because I had a situation where both minor children were involved and that contingent beneficiary came into play. And the reason why the minor children got involved was because there was no contingent beneficiary. So someone listed someone on their life insurance as a beneficiary. This was a weird chain of events where both parties died within a very short period of time with each other. So they left property to, they left their life insurance benefits. They had a beneficiary who died just a few days after they did.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no, it was it was a few days after they did. So when they died, benefits went to this individual. This individual died so shortly after. Now it's dealing with their estate, and the only way that they received that money was to open up an estate for the person who died after them. The only way that their heirs could receive the money. And then some of those heirs were minors that probably were not even in the consciousness of the person who created the life insurance policy, because these were just, it's a few steps away from who they probably would have left those assets to. And so we ended up with minors. We had to open separate court proceedings in order to get someone appointed to receive money for those minors. It was just a really big mess that with some careful estate planning, having a will, and also naming contingent beneficiaries, they could have avoided some of that. And these are the things that most people don't really know about until something crazy happens. But you and I
It's too late.
we
Yeah.
see that. It's
Yeah.
too late then. And so
Yeah.
we have to sound the alarm with conversations like this. I would say what you mentioned about leaving life insurance proceeds to a minor, or listing a minor as a beneficiary. Some people may not want to leave that property, that life insurance payout directly to a person over age 18. They can leave it to them as a custodian for that minor child, or they can leave it to them as a trustee for that minor child.
Okay.
And so if they do one of those things, then they will give that adult the money, but the adult is responsible for using that money for the child. And they're legally
That's good information.
responsible for that. Yeah. Yeah. So we definitely should talk offline about some things that maybe you can tell your clients to say, hey, I know you want to leave this to your minor children. You don't want to give it directly to someone else, but how about we put it in a trust? In fact, this might be a great time for you to do your estate planning too. So you go and do your estate planning, create a trust for your minor children, and you can leave that trust as the trustee of that trust as a beneficiary for that life insurance. That way you're covered. You don't have to do any extra court processes. And that's just a solid way to approach it.
And then I'll say this, Veronica, just to piggyback on what you just said, in that scenario that you had with the minors and with the primary beneficiary passing away shortly after the person who was insured, you mentioned about going to court. And I'm sure there's costs associated with going back and forth, maybe to probate court, and costs associated with filing court fees and doing this and having to get maybe probate bonds. And all these things are extra expenses that will eventually kind of eat away at what that life insurance benefit ultimately would have been if things had been a little bit different and things have been playing out a little bit better. So that's an important point too. I just want to make right quick.
Yeah, it's a really important point because the cost can add up very quickly. Just hiring a lawyer in and of itself is its own expense. But then sometimes if you bring if minor children are involved, you have to appoint what's called a guardian ad litem. And a guardian ad litem is a lawyer who is appointed by the court to represent the interests of those minor children. And so you have to pay this other lawyer, and every court is different. The cost could range from $100 to $500 for this extra person to serve. And let's say that you have, and we had it with our case, you had different groups of minor children. So you may have a group of siblings here and you have another group of siblings here, just in this situation where multiple people ended up being beneficiaries. We had to get a guardian ad litem appointed for each group of children. I think it was 3 different groups of children. So and this is, it's just one of those things that was probably, it's a case I had early on in my probate practice. And it's probably the most complex one that I've had, but it just, after you get one of those, you're like, oh, I'm telling everybody about this. Because I want to make sure that they don't find themselves in this kind of situation.
Absolutely.
So this is really good. I know we getting close to the end of our time here, but I wanted to just ask, I guess it's possibly like a kind of wrapping things up kind of question. Oh, what was that question? I can't remember the question I was going to ask, but I just thought maybe you could summarize a few next steps that people could take if they are knowing that, okay, this is a good conversation. I realize I need to go ahead and start looking into some options. Do you have any next steps that you would recommend for someone who is in that position?
Getting out a little bit here.
Okay.
think we may be good now, but yes, and that person may be an agent. Reach out to whoever that person may be. Let them know what you're looking to do as far as making sure that so you can set an appointment with them. If you don't have an agent, you don't know where to start, you don't know step one, call me. Call my office. We service not only Macon and Middle Georgia, but we're licensed for the entire state of Georgia. Also licensed in Louisiana and Texas currently. So when it comes to life insurance, no matter where you're at in Georgia, you can simply pick up the phone or email us or inbox us. The number directly here at the office for us is 478-254-9858. And what we'll do is basically set up a free, stress-free life insurance review to where we can meet with one another, either in person or virtually, whichever one is more convenient. And you can pull out those policies and blow the dust off of them because you probably haven't looked at them in a while. And we can see exactly what coverage you have. You can gain a better understanding of how your coverage works and see if any updates need to be made as far as how much insurance you have, whether it's a type of policy that you own, if it's any updating with your beneficiaries, things of that nature. You may need more coverage than what you needed when you first purchased the policy or less. Another thing that helps to prompt the need to analyze your life insurance is co-signing. If you co-sign on a loan, whether it's a car loan or we see it all the time, a student loan, you want to make sure that you have life insurance in case that person passes away before that loan is paid off. Those funds can go towards paying off even student loans or car loans or different types of loans. You have a cosigner attached to that loan. So definitely reach out to your agent. Reach out to us if you don't have an agent. It won't cost you anything but a little bit of your time. And then if any changes or updates need to be made, we'll be happy to start the process as far as quoting out with multiple companies. I want to say this too before we end. Two things. A lot of people are hesitant to look at their life insurance for multiple reasons, but two main reasons I see is because they think it's going to be an invasion of privacy when it comes to their personal health history, their current health situations, medications they may have been taking. You have to understand that all of that information is kept confidential. And a lot of times as the agent, we will go ahead and during the application process, ask certain questions to make sure that you're not being overcharged or undercharged for your life insurance and to make sure that you qualify for the best coverage available. But when it comes to that lab work that you may have to complete, which isn't always the case, we don't know the lab work results. All that is kept confidential due to the Privacy Act laws, and we stay compliant. Our mission is not to get injured for you. And then two, the second reason a lot of people don't get life insurance is because they're afraid of those exams. They're afraid of having to take someone drawing blood. They're afraid of needles. They're afraid of having to give a urine sample or a blood sample or things of that nature. A lot of life insurance policies do not require a person to take an exam. You may be able to qualify for coverage just based on the health questions that go along with the application. So don't think that's always the case where you're going to have to go and have an exam. If an exam is required, it's free of charge to you. And it's convenient because you can schedule it to where you can go to a facility to complete the exam, or a lot of these examiners will come out to your job. It takes about 20 to 25 minutes tops. So don't let those things keep you from getting the policy that you deserve to cover your loved ones and your assets, to provide that protection. Just educate yourself a little bit more. If you don't know something, ask someone. And I have 19 wholeheartedly in helping people. And I take pride in what I do. So reach out to me. Let me know if I can help. And we'll be glad to if we can.
I appreciate that, Jason. And I think that people being able to talk to you really is helpful, because then they see a real person who, or people being able to hear from you, they get to see a real person. Because, you know, insurance agents, sometimes they can be a little bit pushy. Sometimes they can be a little bit shady, where you don't know if you can really trust them. So for people to be able to see you and to know, like, and I can tell you, God, I actually know Jason. I work with him a lot. Like I said, he comes to notarize estate plans for our firm a lot. He's done a lot of those. And I wouldn't be telling people about him if I didn't trust him, because I've worked with him a lot, and I tell people about him. So you want to find somebody you can trust and you can ask questions, and
Thank
you
you for
don't
saying that.
have
I
to.
appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's definitely, you know, well deserved. And I also wanted to point out the fact that you're licensed in Georgia, Texas, and Louisiana, because that's where all my people are. That's where most of my people are. My family comes from Louisiana, and so we have a lot of people in Louisiana. I have a sister in Texas. So,
Right.
you know, great audience to talk to, because I know a lot of people in all those states.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I
Absolutely.
don't.
Be glad to.
Okay, and I think we're getting a little bit of technical challenges now at the end, so we keep cutting each other off, and I apologize for that. But I'm grateful to have you on here, and I'm glad to have been able to do this live stream with you. And I don't want to take up too much more of your time on this. What are we in? Wednesday? This Wednesday afternoon. But I appreciate your time and your resources and information that you shared. And y'all make sure y'all reach out to Jason. We will put his contact information in the description for this video so that you can reference it in the future. So I'm gonna go ahead, and that'll be all I have to say. If there's anything else you want to say before we close out, Jason.
No, I just appreciate everyone's time. Speak with everyone today, and I just, because I've never had a claim, but one type of insurance claim, you know, you're going to file one day is your life. So just make sure that you're prepared for when that day comes, because it's going to yourself and your loved ones in the best position possible.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and end that live stream, but thank you so much for being here with us today, Jason. And I'll put his information in the somewhere in there in the post that y'all be able to see it later. Y'all have a great evening.